Let's get it going.
Let's do it, Daddy.
Hello and welcome back to the Movie Marathon Podcast, show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I am Dixon, back as your master of ceremonies for this episode. I'm joined by my guest host, Gabe. Gabe, how's everything going today?
Doing great on this Friday. I am seeing green, all these golf movies.
We are definitely seeing a lot of green the last couple episodes. We started our golf movie miniseries last week with Happy Gilmore, which was a ton of fun to talk about. I had such a good time with that movie. And today we're going to be discussing The Legend of Bagger Vance to get everybody in the spirit for the Masters tournament, which starts on Thursday, April 9th. And there's actually, I don't know if you know this, Gabe, there's actually a little mini tournament that starts before the Masters on Wednesday. Do you know about this?
No, fill me in.
So it's called the Par 3 tournament. It's basically Augusta has the main golf course, and then they have a mini course that's just par 3 holes. It's 18 holes, all par 3. And all of the players that play in the Masters start on Wednesday. And instead of going out with their caddies that they'll go out with for the whole tournament, they actually bring their kids, their wives, their dads,
That's cool.
Parents, like anybody, and they all just go play, and it's very lighthearted. It's a big family event. There was one hole, Jack Nicklaus was playing, and his son or his grandson was caddying for him, and he had him tee off on one of the par 3s, and he had a hole in one.
That's crazy.
It's like there's usually at least one or two every year, but it's mostly the professionals that get the hole in one. So to see, somebody's son, especially Jack Nicholson's son, do it, was very, very cool.
That's cool.
So it's something cool to kind of see before they get into like the very seriousness that is the Masters tournament. But it's a nice little lighthearted way on top of all the other stuff that they have, like the champions dinner. So the champion gets to host the dinner for the players the week before. Do you know about that?
No. So I don't know anything about the Masters. You know this. I know very, very little. You know my Snoop Dogg golf or Masters story.
Oh no, but you got to tell me. I'm so excited.
Well, let's hear yours and then.
Mine's definitely not as exciting as anything with Snoop Dogg.
The Snoop Dogg thing is just that I was pitched a project to do a video where it was just like a PR pitch, but you could accept it or not with a lot of these. And it was Snoop Dogg was at the Masters, and it was kind of just you could do a video with him based around certain products or whatever it was. And it came across, and essentially it was my decision. Do you want to go to Augusta and do something with Snoop or not? And I was more or less in the position where I was just like, well, I have no idea what I'm going to do here. I'm not a golf person. I have nothing to do with these products. And yeah, I'm not going to go to Augusta. Now, 10 years later, I regret it because it would have just been fun to do anything with Snoop. But yeah, it didn't work out.
For some reason, I feel like I remember you telling me about this, and I don't know why. At the time when you told me about this, I didn't push you harder to do it.
Going to Augusta.
I don't know why I didn't do that.
There is obvious nuance to this. Like I was traveling at the time. I had just done a bunch of other projects. It wasn't like this was my only thing on my plate. I had a lot of other stuff going on at the time. So I also just didn't really feel like traveling to Georgia. And again, I'm not really a golf fan, so I just didn't care that much. I do love Snoop. Who doesn't love Snoop Dogg?
Of course.
Even 10 years ago or at any time. But I did have some stupid pitches that I just wasn't confident in. I had come up with like green on the green, it's
amazing.
It was also ultimately like not that creative. It's Snoop Dogg smoking weed. Like that's what he did, but it didn't go much farther than that. He had a joint on a golf course, but I think at the time there was something with I don't know. I really don't remember ultimately what it was, but that wasn't going to work out. But yeah, it's a fun story to tell. Yeah. Even though I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, obviously I should have just gone to Augusta for like 2 nights.
Yeah, that would have been pretty.
Went to the Masters.
Yeah, which not a lot of people can say that they've ever done that. I think
no.
I was watching a video on the Masters the other day, and I think it's something. So there's a lottery to get tickets. Like obviously, like they give out tickets to their sponsors and a whole bunch of other people, but the lottery is the way that most people get tickets. And I think it's like less than 1% of the people that go into the lottery end up getting the option to buy the
That's
ticket.
crazy.
And then you still, not everybody. There's certain tickets you can't afford and all this other stuff. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. And
That's good perspective though, because maybe even if I had one of these bad pitches and I said, "Oh, I'm going to go," and I submitted it, they may not even have accepted it. They may have just said, "No, this is awful. We're only going to take a certain pool." So makes me feel a little better.
Next time you get an opportunity, you got to take it.
You should see some of the crazy PR pitches that people just send out.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah. So my thing with the Masters isn't as cool as that, but it's one of the traditions that they hold for the Masters. The winner from the previous year, that person is the host of the Champions Dinner for the following season. So Rory McIlroy won last year, so he's hosting the dinner this year. In the past, I don't know exactly when it started, but basically like all like former champions and the players that are playing come in and have the dinner. And it's like very exclusive, obviously, but they get to decide on everything that's prepared and presented at the meal. So like, I think Rory had champagne flown in from somewhere in Ireland, like
Crazy.
someplace from like his home. He had I think the entree was from a restaurant in New York that he had flown. Like it's like the most extravagant meal, and you had to have won a Masters or be playing in it this year to be at the dinner. So it's just like very over the top, very decadent.
What a cool exclusive club to actually be in. You're just in such a small, cool, and I mean that in like a beyond exclusive, just like awesome group of people. Because
Yeah,
how many people could truly be in it, and how many,
not that many.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, like I was talking about last week, I kind of looked at the two movies, Happy Gilmore and Bagger, as like two different tournaments. So Happy Gilmore was the Waste Management, which is the party, and Bagger Vance is kind of like the Masters. Jim Nantz, who's the announcer, has been the announcer for many, many years for CBS. He always uses the slogan every year before the tournament starts. He calls it a tradition unlike any other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of what
I
think Bagger Vance exemplifies and kind of brings out in the movie too. So my first question for you, Gabe, what was your first impression of this movie?
Yeah, so I watched Bagger Vance. I feel like I've known about this movie forever, but I watched Bagger Vance for the first time yesterday. Well, in two parts, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, or Wednesday, Thursday night. But yeah, I just had seen this. I feel like I've always known about it. I always kind of wanted to watch it. I think La's a fan too, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
As I know you are, and I'm sure you'll get to that. But it was just something I never turned on, maybe partially because of the neutralness on golf. But I didn't love this movie, and I'm excited to talk about it. I thought it was okay. There are certain things that I enjoyed, but there are certain things that some parts just didn't really connect for me. But I enjoyed what I enjoyed the most about it, other than the performances, which I think are mostly good, and there's a lot of good character actors in it, other than just the stars. I don't know how great Charlize Theron's performance is in this. It felt a little more out of place from Damon's and Smith's, but there's some character problems with Bagger Vance for me. And but I do like the character actors. I know you'll go through casting, but I wanted to like it more than it was. It felt. This is the point that I was making. I like that it felt. It felt like a movie that they don't make anymore in a good way.
Mm.
And probably also its biggest detriment. I felt like it was like glossy, a little bit rosy, and just looking at the time a certain way. So I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. But yeah, it didn't address certain things that I wanted it to address.
Okay. That's fair. I could see that. I've read things about the movie in retrospect now that people have said about it. So I totally get that perspective. I
know
have
this
to-
is like one of your favorites, so I'm not trying to trash it.
No, it's okay. I think it's probably better that we have opposing.
We usually
opinions
agree.
on it. Yeah, which is why I was kind of interested. I was hoping that you would like it, but I was also kind of okay if you didn't, because then we could have a little bit back and forth about it.
One more thing, I did not dislike it.
Mhm.
It's probably a movie that I won't return to. I'm not upset that I watched it. There are certain things that I did like, and it has a ton of my favorite actors, and it's directed by Robert Redford. So, which I didn't realize until last night. So I'm not unhappy that we're talking about it. It's a movie on the podcast, and I'm excited that we're going to cover more movies that I haven't seen before, because that is one main thing about our podcast, is that we're film fans, we're movie fans. We like franchises and we like one-offs, whatever it is, but we just like popular films and cinema. So we're not experts by any means. We've said probably incorrect or misinformation, disinformation, not on purpose. Sorry. In every one of our episodes, Eric was texting us last night, like, Jaws' first appearance wasn't in Moonraker. I'm like, all right, Man with the Golden Gun. He's like, no, Spy Who Loved Me. I'm like, oh yeah. So don't come. We're more like your friends talking about a movie than the experts. But so that's the last thing I'll say. So yeah, sorry. I now, as I continue to shit on one of your favorite movies.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up with this movie. Like, I watched it maybe not when it first came out, but relatively close to its release. And it's just always, I think because I love golf, it hit home from that viewpoint. Like, the cinematography and some of the shots, like when Bagger's talking about,
very beautiful shots, some of them. The fog or the sunsets.
Those are the scenes that really hit me the most. And so it definitely holds like a soft spot in my heart, because I love golf and the way that this, like, pays homage to it and talks about like the beauty of the sport and how it connects with people and who people are and who you are as a person. So it always hits home for me when I watch it. I actually haven't seen it in a few years. So to go back into it again for this and like really dive into it was wonderful for me. So yeah, I love this movie.
When was the first time you say you saw it? It came out in 2000, right?
Came out in 2000. Definitely before high school. Like when I had moved, so I was like playing golf, but I wasn't playing as much as I was prior to when the movie came out, but I was still pretty involved in the sport. But it would come on randomly. It would be on like USA or or like TBS or something, and I would just throw it on and sit there and just be totally absorbed in it. Yeah, so I do love this movie, and we'll talk about some of my favorite scenes as we get into it. Does this feel more or less like a sports movie than Happy Gilmore?
This feels more like a sports movie.
Yeah.
There's competition. It's focused exclusively on the sport. There's a lot of talk about the game, the swing. Well, the swing talk in Happy Gilmore too. Mm-hmm. But it's very sport focused, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just because it's more of a serious movie, it relies on that gravity of the competition to kind of build that emotion.
Yeah.
Were there any specific themes or messages that kind of spoke to you as you were watching it?
I don't know if I enjoyed the Bagger platitudes, but I don't know if I walked away with like a greater not purpose, but I didn't necessarily walk away with too much deeper. But I just, if you like were to talk about the lessons or some of the wisdom that he had dropped, yeah, I would remember it then. But yeah, I'm not walking away with anything specific.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit of it and some of there's some parallels in the movie that I don't think you picked up on, because I definitely didn't even pick up on it until I was doing the research for this.
I'm curious to hear. Yeah, I'm curious to hear.
Very, very interesting. But now let's get into the production history.
You a caddie?
Well, it depends. You a golfer?
So Bagger Vance is based on the 1995 novel by Steven Pressfield, And Pressfeld initially wrote the story with parallels to spiritual philosophy, which we'll get into a little bit more later on. But essentially, Bagger functions as like a spiritual guide or a guardian figure to kind of help our hero, Junuh, rediscover his purpose. So like we said, Robert Redford is the director of this movie. He also directed Ordinary People, A River Runs Through It, and Quiz Show with Christopher McDonald, which we talked about in Happy Gilmore.
One of our favorites.
And he was obviously an actor, and he was in Butch Cassidy, The Natural, and he was also in a few MCU movies, including Endgame, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Redford is American treasure.
Absolutely. He had a long interest in Americana stories that kind of lead into nostalgia and utilizing the landscape as characters, which I think he utilized beautifully in this movie. I honestly didn't really know too many Robert Redford movies that he directed prior to this. Did you know of his movies, and did you see his particular style in this at all?
I didn't, and I didn't know that he directed, and I was kind of surprised because I thought I felt like he would have been have more of an imprint on the movie. But I remember him more as an actor. I mean, I know him just in general, just his imprint on the film industry and, Sundance and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I primarily, for myself and as a movie fan, know Robert Redford as an actor more so than a director or as a fan of his work.
Totally agree.
I was surprised when I was just looking up the movie and I was like, oh, wow, Redford directed this? And it seems like more of a break from his other films, but I'm not sure how it got into his hands, or maybe he just liked the book. But yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, I agreed. I didn't realize it was him. I don't think I'd seen any of his other movies before, or I don't remember being like, oh, this is a Robert Redford movie. So it definitely didn't seem like something that he would have done because, again, I didn't really know any of his stuff. But I think based off of the research that I did and what he was interested in, it definitely seemed like something that like we were talking about the landscaping and like how he utilized all of those shots and like really bringing out that like side of the story was very interesting and kind of cool to see somebody who we all know as an actor or predominantly know as an actor do something like this and in that sort of vein. But yeah, so that's Robert Redford, and that was kind of the main production history behind the movie. Obviously, this takes place on a golf course and on one golf course in the movie, but it was actually shot on a few different courses. So the movie takes place in Savannah during the Great Depression, but most of the golf scenes were filmed in South Carolina. So a couple of the courses that they shot on. First one is the ocean course at Kiawah Island, one of the most famous courses in America. It was built in 1990, designed by Pete and Alice Dye. The course hosted the Ryder Cup in 91, right after it was built, and then 2 PGA championships in 2012 and 2021. In 2010, it was actually ranked as the most difficult golf course in the country. And fun fact,
that's cool.
Yeah. It's also a certified Audubon cooperative sanctuary by Audubon International, and its design helps to kind of protect the native bird of that area. So it's kind of a cool thing that it's a golf course and also a sanctuary for these birds.
Yeah, that is cool.
So they actually built a temporary hole for the final hole in the movie. It cost them $200,000 to put together this hole. They built it near the golf course, but not on the golf course, obviously. And we'll talk about why they built a separate hole instead of filming on their actual course. They also filmed the scene in the beginning and the end of the movie where Older Greaves has the heart attack. That's on the 11th hole at the ocean course.
I like that. I like the post or the narration and the top and tail of the film.
Me too. One of the other courses that they filmed on was another Pete and Alice Dye designed course. It was the Colleton River Club near Hilton Head. It's known as the land between two rivers, and it's a place of abundant fishing, and it has a bunch of natural resources. And it gave the movie the kind of southern marsh landscape look. So you could definitely tell it's filmed in the South. They wanted to give it that, Savannah type look, obviously, and that's where they got a lot of those shots. And then finally, we have Jekyll Island, the Great Dunes course. This was designed by Walter Oldman Travis. Great name. He designed it in 1927, so it's the oldest course that they filmed on. And it was a historically private club for America's wealthiest families in the early 1900s. And the USGA actually used this course as a testing ground for these. They were trying out these newfangled steel golf clubs instead of the hickory shafts that they used to use. So it kind of, it added a layer of authenticity because that was the course where they designed the clubs that players would use for probably the next 100 years or so. Did the courses feel authentically 1920s to you, even though a few of them were built a little bit later in time, but one of them was from that time period? Did to you it seem like maybe this was more of a modern course, or this was a little bit of an older course, or could you not tell the difference?
I couldn't tell the difference, and I think in a good way. I thought the set design and the courses looked nice. I thought that everything was consistent throughout the movie, and I wouldn't be able to tell. And I don't know, have you been to Savannah?
I have not, no.
Oh, it's a beautiful city. And I know that they probably built a lot more of it up, and it's more designed now to be such a great and walkable place. But a lot of the town is historic, so I imagine that it's always been beautiful in some way. So Savannah's a great town. And I felt when I was watching it, there's certain movies where you can almost like feel the weather or the town as a character, and I could feel the heat, and I like when certain movies do that, when you like they have the fan on themselves and stuff like that. So that I enjoyed. I thought that was well done.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because all of the town shots were actually filmed in Savannah. So
Yeah,
it definitely
it felt
helped
like
to add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like it. It really did. Savannah's a really cool town.
Yeah, I've known a bunch of people that have gone, and everybody that I've talked to has had great things to say about it. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the filming locations and the golf courses, which are obviously very integral to the movie and to the golfing of the movie. So now we'll get into the casting and the characters.
Great cast.
Great cast. So first we're going to start off with Ranulph Junuh, who's played by Matt Damon. For those of you who don't know this Matt Damon guy, he's been in a couple of movies. We talked a little bit about him in The Martian when we talked about Project Hail Mary. He was also in The Departed, Good Will Hunting, Talented Mr. Ripley, the Bourne movies, the Ocean movies. And he also makes a cameo in the MCU for a couple of movies, which is funny. I don't know why I have to keep bringing
Yeah, that's funny.
But the original casting for Junuh and Bagger was actually supposed to be Robert Redford and Morgan Freeman.
That's crazy.
They decided they were like, we probably should have some younger actors in it. So that's how they turned to look for other actors besides the two of them. And
yeah,
one of the
just
people
like two 80s or like early 90s, like most popular guys.
Yeah. And one of the people that they asked to play Junuh and turned it down was Brad Pitt.
He fits for the role.
I could have seen him playing this too. Yeah, absolutely. So he turned it down, and then it went to Matt Damon. And Matt Damon trained with golf great Tim Moss. He went to Hilton Head for a month to work on his swing. And he actually suffered from a separated rib from practicing too much. And when I read about that,
baby.
Exactly. I think he fractured his rib, and then he had insane blisters on his hands that he was playing through. Like he basically just like bandaged his hands up and was practicing for that entire month. And it was funny because I was kind of like picturing the scene where he goes out at night and he's hitting the balls into the woods. Like that's how I pictured like, oh, he cracked his ribs, and then he was like, let's go shoot this night scene. And he's just like, like struggling through every shot.
It fits with the character.
It does. It does. Do you think he sells the kind of internal struggle that Junuh is having? Do you think Damon kind of sells that side of the character?
Yeah, I think he does a nice job. I think he carries the movie. In some ways, it almost, because of the way the character is, it floats a little bit, even though he's the lead and the star. It feels slightly unfocused. Like the kid is leading it for a little bit, and then Bagger's leading it for a little bit. But it's just because like Junuh's so conflicted, and for a little bit, there's not so much for him to do. Like, he comes back from the war and obviously has PTSD and all that, and he's back in the competition. And once he just can't find his swing until he kind of does find his swing and really comes back, there's a period where everything else, the plot kind of happens and his character is kind of just stagnated. But that's more of a plot and writing thing that happened about the movie. I think Damon carries it well. And it's funny because I hadn't seen this movie, my young Damon kind of impression is Private Ryan. So it's funny to see him, or not funny, but he's back in a war again, pretty much right after Private Ryan, like 3 years later. But I see him as like Private Ryan, which is even younger than this. So it was interesting for me to see like this version of young Damon in like tuxedos and the golf outfits. By the way, the costuming is great. I love the high socks. But yeah, we didn't even talk about this, and we didn't talk about it on the Gilmore episode that you were. We realized we never even mentioned it, that you were in the jersey. But
it's just a little Easter egg for the people that are watching. Like, is he wearing the Happy Gilmore jersey?
But yeah, I very much enjoyed the costuming. So yeah, back to Damon. I enjoyed Damon's performance for sure.
Do you think that he looks like or presents well as a professional golfer? Like, does he look like somebody? Because he took a month to work on his swing. Did it come through that he looked like he knew what he was doing?
Bro, the other guys were in like their 50s, swinging in full suits. So Damon looked the most athletic out of anyone in the film, whether or not he broke his back and did all that.
So I couldn't tell, like, before thinking about this, I wouldn't have thought about whether or not he had ever played golf in his life. And I think even if he didn't look like the golfers of today, it's probably better for the role because the golfing style was completely different back then. So who knows, like, if you watch videos of like Bobby Jones and like all those guys from like the 20s and 30s, the swinging style was completely different than it is today.
I'm sure, yeah.
So even if he wasn't, didn't look exactly like them, he still looked like he fit in the time period. So it didn't like take away from anything saying like, oh, like you see some movies where the guys there are quarterbacks that clearly have never thrown a ball in their lives. And their arms are like those guys, that takes you out of it. But his performance as a golfer definitely did not do it for me. Did not take me out of the movie.
Yeah.
Next character we'll talk about is Bagger Vance, played by Will Smith. So Will Smith wanted to kind of move away from the high-profile comedies he was doing in the 90s, Independence Day, Men in Black, Wild Wild West, Bad Boys, all those kind of...
all my favorites.
Great movies. He wanted to take on more serious kind of character-driven work, and he actually ran into Steven Spielberg at a party, and he asked Spielberg, he's like, why have I never been cast in one of your movies? And Spielberg's reply to him, he goes, oh, you're too big for my movies. And that comment kind of resonated with Smith, and he wanted to like really find a role that like didn't overshadow the movie, but was like very character driven. So he sees this role of a mystical caddie, and it was the perfect opportunity for him to kind of like turn it off and take a more understated acting focused role versus just being like the comedic lead in an action movie. Does this feel to you like a Will Smith role, or is it out of character for him? And again, I think you can also think about it from the perspective of the movies that he was doing before this versus the movies that he's been doing, post Bagger Vance.
Well, I think that's the crux of it for me, because I don't have the nostalgia factor, so I can only look at it from a world where I've seen Will Smith in other dramatic roles. So it looks fine to me in terms of what he's taken on. I've seen him in now both comedy and both drama, and this is like a post Pursuit of Happiness and King Richard kind of world for me. So and post slap world. So no, I didn't think about really any of that when I watched this movie. Probably I feel like I've seen like every Will Smith movie. Will Smith Will Smith's one of my favorite actors. So I think I had seen pretty much everything he's in, maybe minus a couple, but I hadn't seen this, and I kind of forgot about it for a very long time. So, yeah, I like the performance. I don't know if it was particularly like very strong, but I enjoyed it because I like Will Smith.
Mm.
But I again, I don't know how much he had to do other than be support, and he is more a plot device than a character for me. I love seeing Will Smith. I guess that's ultimately what I'm saying through all this, is that I like seeing Will Smith on screen, so I'll kind of always accept it, especially because this is something I missed. But yeah, I don't think the character has a lot to do, and it's funny because it's the Legend of Bagger Vance.
He's the title character.
He's literally the title character, but he's just there to help Matt Damon.
Yeah. I probably again have a little bit. I think his performance is great, but that could also just be because I love this movie, and I think yes, he is a plot device to kind of move the story along and to help the character along, the main character along. But I think he does a great job, and his like narrating scenes when he's talking about the sport, those, like I said before, they hit home for me. So that is what really drove the character for me and drove his performance for me and makes me enjoy it and appreciate it even more.
I wonder, does the book give him more of a backstory? Is that in there?
I don't know.
And I forgot what I was going to say now.
I don't think so. I think it's intended, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I think it's intended to be ambiguous.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but I wonder why that is.
We'll get there. Next on our list is Adele Invergordon, played by Charlize Theron. Charlize was actually working on Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon right before this movie came out, and she was a rising star around this time. In 2000 alone, when this movie came out, she was also in Reindeer Games, The Yards, and Men of Honor. And we kind of brought this up before, but you think she was underutilized in this movie?
I don't know if it was underutilized. By the way, I want to go back and say, yeah, young Matt Damon, of course, Good Will Hunting, duh, too. I want to correct myself. Like I said, disinformation podcast. But I don't know if she was underutilized. She was in the movie a lot. Maybe I just didn't like her character too much either. She was okay. She was fine. I didn't feel like, I guess I'm neutral on it.
If even now, it felt to me like she was trying too hard to be like this very like Southern,
like a debutante,
yeah,
all that.
Like it was almost like she was doing a little too much to like play into that. I don't know if her accent was a little not taking me out of it or something else, but it seemed like she was maybe doing too much, or maybe she could have been doing something a little bit differently in the role. But yeah, I think I agree that it could have been a little bit different, and maybe like her performance, if it was different than the way she did it, I don't know. I don't want to say better or worse, but like had she done it a little bit differently, I might have enjoyed her character a little bit more.
Yeah. I just didn't feel like it was super strong.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. So next we have young Hardy Greaves, who's played by J. Michael Moncrief. And he auditioned for this role and beat out 2,000 other actors to get it.
Wow.
This is his only acting role, but he did stay in the movie industry after he transitioned into editing and sound on short films. And he did that for a while after this. But then we have older Hardy Greaves, who is played by Jack Lemmon. Jack Lemmon was in over 100 movies in his career, and he had some notable roles in The Apartment, Some Like It Hot, and Glenn Ross. But this was his last.
And
movie.
The Odd Couple, dude. The Odd Couple.
Yes, he was in The Odd Couple too. Sorry,
that's his like most well known.
Yes.
The Odd Couple.
But yeah, so this was his last movie, and in the opening scene of the movie, when he goes and puts the tea in the ground, he says it's magic time. That's a line that Jack Lemmon would say to himself before every single take he did in every single one of these movies.
Oh, that's funny. They included it.
Yeah, so they added that in for him. And Robert picked him to be the narrator of this to kind of bridge the gap between the story's past and the present, and narrating the events of the 30s tournament from like a perspective of maturity versus having the younger version of himself narrate it. Couple other people that we'll talk about. Gratlin Rice, who's the reporter, is played by Lane Smith. Lane Smith, who played another Southern character. He was the lawyer
My Cousin
in
Vinny?
My Cousin Vinny.
I have this. I wrote this down. I wrote the My Cousin Vinny crossover because the other guy
Yeah.
too.
He was also the coach in Mighty Ducks, and he was Mayor Bates in Red Dawn. This was also his last movie.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Last person I'll talk about is Nescalusa, who's the guy who wants to sell the course, and then he's like all about the tournament. He's played by Peter Gretley. He was previously in Flight, Charlie Wilson's War, and he was in Paul Blart Mall Cop. Sandlerverse just keeps on coming.
we like crossover in all our episodes.
Exactly. He was also on the TV shows. He was on The Wire for a while, and he was in Sneaky Pete for all the Sneaky Pete fans out there.
Love The Wire.
Yeah. So this cast consists of 4 actors who have won Academy Awards. Gabriel, can you name the 4 actors, and can you name the movies that they won Academy Awards for?
Well, Damon. He won for Good Will Hunting.
Boom.
Charlize.
4.
But I don't know if I'm going to remember. Monster,
2003. Very nice.
Film experts. What did I say before?
Look at that.
2 more in the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hang on. Let me think.
One you've already said.
Will Smith, King Richard.
There you go. And last but not least.
This is like the hard one.
Yeah, but if you think about it, you'll get it.
Oh, Redford. Well, not Redford's not in the movie. Did Lemon win?
Lemon won 2. He won Best Supporting Actor for Mr. Roberts in 1955 and Best Actor for Save the Tiger in 1973.
There you go. I did pretty well.
Nice. That was solid. I
was like
figured,
a scream call, and he was like, "Oh, name the actor." I think I would do okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured you would get the first 3, and then Jack Lemmon. I was like, oh, he probably guessed that it was Lemon, but maybe not the movies.
I like blanked out. I was like, he didn't name any more actors. Like, what am I thinking about? I completely blanked on Lemon. Who, by the way, I want to also say, Grumpy Old Men. It was so good. I love Jack Lemmon.
Yes, he's phenomenal. I forgot he was in that. Yes,
he's amazing. And the other, My Cousin Vinny guy. I don't have the cast list in front of me, but he played the other golfer. He's a big character actor. You're not the older golfer. Who are the 2 guys? The golfers.
Jones and Hagen. Yes, the guy who played
Hagen. Yeah, he's in My Cousin Vinny, and he's in a lot of other movies. I like that actor.
Yes,
I can't remember who it is right now, but he's also good.
So speaking of Jones and Hagen, one of the very cool things about this movie is that the players in the movie are either based off of real golfers or they were actually played by the real golfers.
I like when movies do that. They mix like the reality, because this feels like a true story. Obviously, I knew it wasn't, but it feels like that, especially when they mix the golfers.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with this one, a lot of people believe that Randolph's character is loosely inspired by Bobby Jones, which is funny because there's also the character Bobby Jones is in the movie. Jones dominated golf in the 1920s, and he famously completed the only single-season Grand Slam in 1930, which is when you win all 4 major championships in a single era or in a single year. At the time, the Grand Slam consisted of the U.S. Open, the U.S. Amateur Championship, the British Open, and the British Amateur. And Jones actually later co-founded Augusta National Golf Club and created the Masters tournament. So there's your Masters tie-in.
That's very cool.
The other golfer is Walter Hagen. And Hagen was one of the first true celebrities in golf. He won, like they said in the movie, 11 major championships and was just known for his flamboyant personality, very luxurious lifestyle. And he turned the sport into a spectator sport. And he brought, professional golfers that were just club golfers into the majors and brought them out into the public eye. Do you think that there's a possibility, and again, I know I keep bringing this up, the Sandlerverse, do you think he could be related to Happy in some weird multiverse? Like just his ridiculous spirit.
I love it. They could do it in Happy Gilmore 3. Bring back the actor. I looked it up. Bruce McGill.
Bruce McGill. Thank you.
Title, and why not?
We're
Bring
creating
Bagger
our own,
back in. He could just walk across the golf course.
we're slowly creating a movie marathon podcast universe. Just all these movies interconnected by the characters and the actors.
Yeah, I love it.
Another legend that's associated with the characters in the film is Gene Sarzan. So Sarzan is one of the first golfers to achieve the modern Grand Slam. So the one that Jones did was the original Grand Slam. That he completed the modern Grand Slam. Can you name me the 4 tournaments that make up the modern Grand Slam? Give me a couple. Give me a couple.
The 4 golf tournaments would be Masters, PGA, Open.
You're like half right with the third one on both of them, if that makes any sense. I'll give it to you. So it's the Masters, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and then the Open Championship, which is the British Open.
I wouldn't have gotten the British one, but it's stupid that tennis and golf both call them the U.S. Open. It feels silly to call them the same thing, but whatever.
It's all good. But yeah, that's the modern Grand Slam, which nobody has completed the modern Grand Slam in a single year. They've all done career Grand Slams over the course of their career. And Rory McIlroy is the most recent recipient of that when he won the Masters last year.
They all happen in the same season, right? From now to July, right? Or is it?
All of the tournaments do, but no one has won them in one season.
Yeah.
Bobby Jones is the only one to do it. He did it with the original Grand Slam tournaments, but nobody's done it in the modern era.
It's an absurd feat. It's crazy.
I want to say Tiger came close. I think he had 3 in one season. And he definitely won a couple of them in back-to-back years. I think he won the Masters 2 or 3 years in a row. But
did you see the Tiger? I know. Just very quickly, because we talked about last episode. Did you see Tiger said on the body cam that he was thinking about he wanted to compete in the Masters?
Yeah, and he made a announcement that he said he wasn't coming. So I think he was intending.
The intention was, it's so sad.
Yeah, next year. Just get it together, man.
Yeah.
So Gene Sarzan is also remembered having one of the most famous golf shots in history. They called it the shot heard around the world. It was a dramatic final round double eagle, which is an albatross. Do you know the scoring with golf?
I kind of do. Yeah, I more or less know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's par is whatever the hole is.
Yeah.
Birdie is 1 under.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle is 2 under. Albatross is 4 under. You can only get that on a par 5. So they call it a double eagle or an albatross.
I figured albatross was ridiculous because I hadn't heard it, but I knew it was good. So I knew about the other one's birdie par, obviously. So
it's insane to get. I don't know if there's actually. I should have looked it up. I don't know if there's more albatrosses that have been made in championships or hole in ones. But yeah, so he had an albatross on the 15th hole in the 1935 Masters, and he holed out to basically erase a 3-stroke deficit and forced a playoff and won the tournament, which is the Masters. And that kind of established the Masters as a premier major championship and brought it into the forefront of golf. So kind of brought the Masters in with one shot, which is pretty cool. All right. So we talked about the golfers. Now let's talk a little bit about the hidden mythology of Bagger Vance.
Well, you lost your swing. We got to go find it.
All right. So this is something that I didn't know before researching this movie, and I think it's very interesting. This movie obviously isn't just a sports story. The book that this movie is based off of is inspired by the ancient Hindu text called the Bhagavad Gita. So brief summary. The Bhagavad Gita tells the story of the warrior named Arjuna who's about to fight in a huge battle, but he becomes overwhelmed with doubt and despair. His charioteer, Krishna, guides him through a philosophical conversation about duty, purpose, and inner truth. And the central lesson is that everybody has a role or a true path that they must rediscover. So there's obviously a lot of parallels between Bagger Vance and the Bhagavad Gita. So instead of preparing for war and preparing for the battle, Junuh is trying to rediscover his golf swing, and that becomes kind of a metaphor for rediscovering who he is. The name Bagger Vance, Bhagavad Bagger Vance, kind of a play on it, and Arjuna, Junuh, So
That's
there's
cool.
those
I like that.
wordplay in that. And Bhagavan was actually a Sanskrit term, which means Lord or divine guide, which is basically what Bagger is in the movie. Bagger, like we said, he appears exactly when Junuh needs him the most. He isn't bound by normal rules. He kind of doesn't do what everybody's telling him to do. He doesn't talk about himself. He just seems to know things and kind of dips out at the very end, disappears. And he's this very like mystic character, which, kind of plays into the whole story. And some viewers interpret him as like a spiritual guide or a guardian figure. But the line of the movie that kind of encapsulates the whole theme is inside each and every one of us is one true, authentic swing. And that swing kind of parallels with the true nature or purpose or the true path in the Bhagavad Gita. Did you catch any of this when you watched the movie?
I didn't. I saw some of this on like the Wikipedia when I was just like scrolling about the movie and I was looking it up, but I didn't read too deeply about it. So I'm glad you're talking about it because I didn't even realize like the Bagger Vance name stuff or Junuh. But I like that. It makes me understand the movie a little more. I didn't catch it upon the viewing, and I thought again those are some of my complaints about the movie and mostly about Bagger Vance's character. And I'll be honest, it was hard for me because I thought it was more about, for me, the elephant in the room was more about like the race relations and that it didn't come up at all. And that, I'm not saying like every character has to be racist, but it's a group of mostly white men, except I guess like the caddies. So it feels a little bit strange. And it's more strange that it's not addressed at all. And it's definitely a choice, obviously, to go around it. But at that point, you could probably make it a modern day story. You don't have to. It's not a true story, so you don't need Hagen and the other golfer there ultimately. So the way you could kind of move that and get around that is make it more modern day, and then you don't have that issue at all. But for me, I didn't take it as it was taken from this legend mythology, but more that they had just danced around the race issue. And that became more of a difficulty for me, compounded with the fact that Vance didn't really have a full character.
I think that's a lot of the complaint, at least now, more so than when the movie came out.
You
Was
can't
that
make this movie today
no,
in the same way.
not in the same way. Definitely, like they definitely
Yeah.
kind of glossed over it when it came out when they were writing it. But I also didn't know anything about the connection to the Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't really change my understanding of the movie or appreciation for it one way or the other, but it is interesting to know and like to see the parallels is pretty cool. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, like learning about that for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes me like it a little more, actually.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so we talked about the production, we talked about the filming locations, we talked about the cast, we talked about the connections to the Bhagavad Gita. Now let's get down into the movie Bagger Vance.
Anything else?
Just bash the living shit out of it.
All right, so the film opens on our older Hardy Greaves starting a round of golf, and he begins to recount the story of his youth during the Great Depression while he's having a heart attack on the course. And one of the things I loved about this opening scene, I love how he hits his opening drive, and then he goes out and he finds a ball, and he goes, Titleist, that's good enough. Like he just picks up a random ball on the side, like every golfer has done that. It's just such a typical golfer thing. Do you think that the movie gains or loses anything by framing it through older Hardy's perspective?
No, I like that. That was one of the things I liked about the film, and they don't do that often. It's kind of a trope, but I enjoyed it in that way, and it was nice to see Jack Lemmon, of course, because I hadn't seen him. I hadn't seen this movie, and it's his last movie, so I hadn't seen him, and I liked it. It felt a little It's a Wonderful Life kind of feel to me, almost like the kid was my dog Skip kind of vibe, that like just the idealistic kid Christmas story a little bit. So I enjoyed framing it around the kid's eyes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it like we said before, it adds a little like maturity, and you have it from somebody who's lived there a good chunk of their life, like talking about it from that perspective makes it a little bit more interesting than having some, other narrator, like not somebody that wasn't involved in the story. So he's having this heart attack, but he's thinking about this story about Bagger Vance. And so we flash back to a young Randolph Junuh, who's played by Matt Damon. He's introduced as this Savannah hero. He's a naturally gifted golfer. He's confident. He's kind of a little mythic around Savannah. And Hardy, the young Hardy, is obsessed with him. We see Junuh, he's romantically involved with Adele. She's the daughter of a wealthy family, and they own one of the best golf courses in Savannah, if not the world. Then World War I breaks out, and Junuh enlists, and he's sent to the front lines. So there's this harrowing nighttime battle that he's in command with, and he's forced to send his troops out to basically a near certain death. He loses a lot of people, and you can see in that one scene the guilt and the trauma. That's where it all started. It starts for him. And he basically comes back and decides he's just going to disappear and not deal with anything. Do you think that he suffered more from just surviving the war or having to live with the decisions that he made in the battle to send everybody out there, knowing that they probably weren't going to make it?
Yeah, probably the latter, just like the guilt and all that. And at first I was a little confused. I almost thought he died in battle, and then I obviously realized he didn't very quickly. But yeah, I didn't see it going that way. And then obviously when he came back, I was a little curious about where he had gone in the timeline of how long he had been gone. But maybe I just missed it when I was watching it. Maybe they did say it. But yeah, I didn't see it going that way.
Agreed. Yeah, like I don't honestly, most of my recollection of this movie, because I hadn't again watched it in a while, but most of what I remembered from this movie was the tournament. Like I knew he had gone to the war and came back and he was different, but it wasn't like that big of a draw for me as far as the tournament itself. But watching it again, it was like, oh yeah, I think he was more hurt from the choices and the decisions that he had to make, whether or not they were really his decisions to make. He was the one that was still sending those guys out there. So that was definitely what I think was hurting him more than what he actually did. So he's home. He's obviously, secluded himself away from everything. Meanwhile, Adele's father had opened the course, and then the depression hit. So he was trying to pay back people, or he didn't think he was going to be able to make it out. We don't really know what happened to him, except that he committed suicide. And she's struggling to keep the golf course afloat. So Nescalusa, and I just call them Nescalusa and Co., the rest of the people in the town, are trying to get her to sell the course. But she decides on a whim, basically, to organize a high-profile exhibition match and get Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen to play in it. And I like the scene where she goes and convinces both of them to join by telling them that the other person's going to do it. And
that was good.
They have such an animosity for each other that they want to beat each other, that they're like, oh, if he's doing it, then I have to do it.
Yeah, that was good.
So Nescalusa holds a town hall. He's trying to get the tournament thrown out because he wants to sell the course, or I think he wants her to sell it to him. But then when he realizes that the crowd actually is in for this tournament, he turns around. He's like, all right, we have to get somebody from Savannah to be in it as well. So Hardy stands up. He mentions Junuh, and they're like, all right, well, you got to go get him and convince him to do it. So Junuh is playing cards and asks him, how drunk is enough? Gabe, how drunk is enough?
Ask me in 2013 versus 2026. You have very, very different answers.
All right, so let's time travel. 2013, Gabe. How drunk is drunk enough?
Similar to Matt Damon in that scene, probably.
Probably.
Indiana Jones, shot for shot. That brings me back to the...
Just taking the cup and the shot
I wish
glass.
Eric was here for that question.
Yeah, his answer would be much different than ours. So Hardy's at the table, and he lists off a bunch of accomplishments of Junuh's, but he's still not convinced. Then Nescalusa and Co. show up. They try to convince him. Then Adele comes and puts on a show and tries to convince him, and he's refusing. He tells her he's lost his swing. So she leaves, and Junuh is like, all right, let me pull out the clubs and see what I got. He's out there whacking away. Maybe Matt Damon had broken ribs at that point. And enter Bagger Vance. So he comes in out of nowhere. He's calm. He's
Literally
kind of timeless. He's speaking in riddles and metaphors and all this stuff. And he offers to caddie for Junuh for the tournament. And he says he wants a guaranteed $5. He's kind of bothering Junuh and when he asks him to swing. And I love the line where he says, somewhere in the harmony of all that is, all that was, and all that will be. And he doesn't finish the sentence. Like he just, I went back and I listened to it like 2 or 3 times because I was like, is there supposed to be something else at the end of that statement? I'm wondering if you picked up on that, if you thought maybe there was something that was supposed to be there that they just didn't get to, or they were supposed to leave it open and ambiguous. But that line just definitely hit me, because when he gets to that point, he says, somewhere in the harmony of all that is, all that was, and all that will be. Junuh finally hits a shot, and you can see him like viscerally react to it. So I'm wondering if Bagger was trying to, like, he had the next thing that he was going to say ready, and then when Junuh realized that like he hit it, or he maybe found his swing a little bit, that Bagger was like, okay, I'm going to hold off on that for later. Do you think that there was anything there?
I think the swing is the end of the answer pretty much. It's like all that will be, and then it's the swing. You know, it's you are becoming all that you can be. Is how I could take that.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely was. I think that there was something, again, left up to interpretation, but yeah, I like that it was the swing was the answer to the end of that statement. Did you think at all in the beginning of this movie, or at least in the first scene of Bagger, that he might not actually be a real person?
Yes. Up until even when he talked to the kid, I still wasn't sure, because he talks to Junuh for just a while. There's like a period where he's only talking to Junuh and no one else addresses him. Then he's outside of something, one of the rooms, and it's raining, and he talks to the kid, and I'm like, okay, he can still kind of be like a ghost or like some kind of like spirit. And then he's talking to like pretty much everyone by the time the tournament happens. And yeah, but for half the
you weren't
movie,
sure if it was like a Sixth Sense kind of thing, where it's
I was
like only
about to
Junuh
say-
can see him.
I was about to say, dude, I thought it was a Sixth Sense thing for about the first 50 minutes of the movie.
That's so funny.
I was like, oh, Bagger's just not real. Okay, that's where this is going. Like, not a true story, but all the other characters are real, except like the main trio. So yeah, that's what I thought originally.
That's funny.
Did
yeah,
you
so
think
then
that too, or is that a thing that people didn't think he was real? Or
I think that there was
you
some
asked me about it,
interpretation
so-
of it. Yeah, I think there was some people that interpreted it as like him just being more of a figure, but like a manifestation. Like he was like, obviously everybody was able to see him and knew that he
but
was
he
his
still
caddie.
doesn't have to be like real. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's really like nobody really knew who he was. Like if Junuh didn't know who he was, they were like, "Oh, you're a caddie." He's like, something like that, you know.
I guess when you look at it that way, then yeah, if he's not real and you just accept that he's some sort of manifestation of something, then yeah, of course he doesn't get a backstory and it's obviously mysterious. But I think it needs to be handled in a different way.
I get that. All right, so then we move to the first. I don't even know if it's the first day of the tournament, but like the introduction to the tournament. So Jones and Hagen show up. There's pomp and circumstance. Adele lists off everyone's accomplishments, and it's, Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen,
like
best golfers in the world. And then Junuh, she's like, he's from Savannah and he went to the war and now he's back. And it's kind of like, okay, I could have talked him up a little bit more. And I liked, it starts in this scene or this part of the movie, and you kind of see it throughout. Jones is always trying to be positive towards Junuh and always trying to like lift him up. So like in that first scene, the crowd, they're like, Junuh from Savannah, Georgia, and everyone goes crazy. And Jones says to Hagen, he's like, I think we're the underdogs here. And then there's a few scenes where like they're talking in the locker room, and Jones is like, it's been an honor to play with you. Like he never looks down on Junuh. He's always trying to like help him or keep his spirits up throughout the whole movie. And I just thought that was really interesting to like have the character do that, because Bobby Jones was obviously a great player. And I think because he was so integral to the game that early on in the sport, that it just shines more of a light on who he was as a real person and how important he was to making golf what it is today.
Yeah, it's cool they give that as part of like his legacy.
Yeah. So Junuh, after this whole ceremony, decides he's going to run away. And as he's in his car pulling away, a lot of the people in the town see him and they go up to him and they're starting to cheer. And he sees how much Savannah is behind him and how much they almost rely on him in this tournament to like kind of lift their spirits and help them out. So he decides to go back. So Rice, the reporter, is staying at Hardy's house. He's renting out a room, and he's there to report on how June is doing versus how Jones and Hagen are doing. He had seen him play in a tournament years ago, and he thought he was a great golfer, could have been one of the best. So he's staying at Hardy's house. So there's kind of the connection between how the reporter writes about it, and Hardy definitely has a little bit of an impact on the way he sees the game and how he looks at Junuh, for sure. So then we get the scene where Hardy meets Bagger at the clubhouse, like you were talking about before. And he asked him to be his four caddy, which I didn't know that was a thing, but it is a real thing in golf. While they're interacting and having their conversation, we see Junuh, and he's in the rain. He's trying to figure out his swing, and at the same time, he's trying to work out those demons for sure. That night, there's a banquet, and he has a moment with Adele. It's a fleeting moment, but it's something that's there, and we'll see that kind of keep going throughout the movie. And we at the same time this banquet's going on, Hardy and Bagger are walking the course. So they're basically doing it to try and get an edge on the course, make sure that they understand the distances and how the greens lie and all that stuff. One of the lines in this scene that hit me was, inside each and every one of us is one true, authentic swing, which comes up a few times in the movie. And when Hardy makes that putt, when he's just closing his eyes and Bagger puts the ball down and he knocks the putt in his face, is perfect. The kid's just like, I can't believe I just did that. What do you think the authentic swing represents besides or outside of the game of golf? Gonna get a little deep with you right here.
I would say just in terms of the story, you base it around Damon's guilt, right? So just coming to terms with who you are or what life gives you in some ways. And once you address that and don't bottle it up, you can kind of excel more. And there's also other themes in the movie about like community and the people around you and support like that. And I think that all kind of ties into it. So the swing is representative of everything. Once he gets his swing back, he gets himself back. Mm-hmm. So he needs to just kind of relearn who he is, and his past and his future is all kind of tied together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really just like who you are as a person, like your authentic, like true self, like that swing is unique to you. Like your personality and your being is truly unique to who you are. And you can lose that through any sort of event, tragedy, whatever. So to always know that you can go back to that at any point, and even if you lose it, you could always find that true authentic swing or your true self, I think is the main point that line's trying to hit. Mm-hmm. So then we get into the tournament. Tournament draws a massive crowd. Stakes are obviously huge. You got two of the greatest golfers in the world playing against Junuh. He's playing for, the pride of the town, his own personal redemption. The match is 36 holes broken up in 2 18s.
Nightmare.
On Saturday, and then 2 more on Sunday. For some people would absolutely love it. The longest golf tournament ever held was actually in 1931, was the U.S. Open. The reason it's the longest is the playoff rules at the time were if there were players in the lead that were tied at the end of the tournament, the playoff rules were you had to play another 36-hole round.
Oh my God.
So they were tied at the end of the U.S. Open in 1931. They played another 36. They were tied again at the end of that 36.
Oh
and they
my
played
God.
another 36 holes.
That's insane.
Yeah, they changed that. So now the rules are it ends in sudden death. So it's basically you play one hole, winner of the next hole wins. If not, you move on to the next one until somebody wins. So a lot less golf, which, is probably for the best for the players.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I also like on the first hole that they have the Scottish announcer, just a nice touch to the origins of the game.
The whole thing was cool. That's where you really see their outfits and everything like that. I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah. And I also like how in that first hole they show the different styles of the golfers based off of where their balls end up. So like Jones is right in the middle. He's got a perfect shot, right down the line. Hagen's off to the side in the rough. He's smoking a cigarette. Like it just shows you like how unique they are and how their styles of golf help them win so many games.
Yeah.
So Junuh's in the sand and he's asking Bagger for advice and Junuh or Bagger's basically just like, no, just, you'll figure it out. And they get to the 18th hole of the first round and Bagger's basically like, just hook it out over those trees into the woods. Like just put yourself out of this misery. And I know personally, I've been on a lot of holes where I've said that to myself. I'm like, that water's looking real nice right now. It's kind of hot out here today.
Pretty much every time I golf.
Yeah. But the whole time Bagger is very calm and he's just trying to help Junuh like guide him through each one of these moments. Do you think that he's unable to perform at least early in the tournament just because he's out of practice with the game, or is he still having the mental blocks and trying to work through that?
I think it's mental blocks at that point. You've seen him play. He has a couple of decent swings in there. So I think it's just he just has to now at this point just overcome that final hurdle pretty much I think where he's at that point.
Absolutely. So Junuh ends the first round. He's 12 strokes back, which is a almost insurmountable amount.
They do the math in the movie, like four has to be every round has to be like 4 ahead or something like that.
He's got to pick up 1 stroke every 4 holes for the rest of the tournament, Hardy says. Yeah. And they're in the locker room, and I love the Bagger trying to tell him, he's like, I'm trying to tell you a story about adversity, Mr. Junuh. And he's just like not having any of it. He's like, I don't care about the tournament, but like Bagger's just sitting there cleaning the shoes, like telling them the story. Then they have this scene with Junuh and Adele when they're sitting on the bench. Is it me, or is that a weird scene?
I didn't love it. I didn't. Maybe I didn't find maybe they didn't feel like they had a lot of chemistry. But yeah, I didn't love it.
I always felt like for some reason, every time I watch that, I'm like, I don't like it. I don't know if it's like the music or the way it's written or like their conversation. Like Junuh's just kind of like, all right, what do you want? Like he's like almost dismissive of her, and she's going to be like, I can't believe I did this to you. Like that whole scene, just every time I watch it, I'm like, this is a little weird for me. So in between the holes, basically all of the, I'll say patron. So a little master's information here. They have very particular terminology that they use for the broadcast. So there's no fans at Augusta. There's patrons. And there's not a crowd. There's a gallery. So I'll try and use that terminology as much as I can. But
I like it.
Basically all of the patrons for the tournament, they go on like a lunch break and everyone goes back and has lunch before coming back for the second 18. And we go back to Hardy's house, and his dad and Junuh, we find out they were actually friends before the war. And Hardy comes back to the clubhouse and he's talking to Junuh, and he talks about like how great the game is. And you can see that Junuh is really taking in how much Hardy loves the game, and it like kind of invigorates him a little bit. And when they go out to that first hole, he's like looking at Hardy. He goes, greatest game there ever was, right? And he's got a little bit of life brought back into him at that first hole. And then we get to my personal favorite scene in this entire movie. I'm going to try to get not get choked up about it, because it really, this is the part that gets me every time. And he looks at him, Bagger looks at Junuh, he goes, time for you to see the field. And Bagger tells Junuh to watch Bobby Jones, and he explains everything that's going through Bobby's mind and everything that he's thinking about and what Junuh needs to look for when he goes up there. And that one authentic shot, and that shot is going to choose him. And that's the line that Bagger says. He goes, there's one authentic shot out there for everyone, and all we got to do is get out of its way and let it choose us. And that always just hits home for me. On top of the cinematography of that shot, just going through the course and seeing the greens and seeing the sunset over a hole. And I think that when I first watched this movie was the scene that really like got me to be like, oh, I'm watching one of my favorite movies right now.
And I think that's the turning point too. After that, Matt Damon gets good, right?
Absolutely. He sees the field. You kind of see that zoom in shot where the hole comes closer to him. He's like really taking it all in. He hits a great drive on that opening hole. And he goes through the second round and he's pulled himself within 8 strokes, which, funny enough, is Hardy's math. That was the 4 holes that he needed to pick up on the first day. So I thought that was a nice little touch. Then there's another banquet that night. Do you think that golfers today would be able to play as well if they had to party every single night of a tournament like these guys did?
These aren't our normal banquets. These are a little different from what we're used to.
That's what I'm saying. Like these, like they're drinking. Like there's
now
that
it's
scene
Happy Gilmore banquet.
But those guys, I mean, I'm talking about like the players that are playing in the Masters tournament. Like if they had to go to a party and like go to a bar and like drink and then wake up the next day and like the first guys are teeing off at 8 a.m. the next day, I don't think they're playing as well.
Yeah. Although the guys back in the day were also drinking a lot of like brandy and heavy stuff too, but they just survived. They just did it. Men were built differently back then.
Absolutely. So towards the end of the banquet, Adele and Junuh are having a moment, and she asks him, "What do you miss about us?" And he says the same thing that she said to him on the bench earlier. He goes, "I like the way we danced," and we'll get to that a little bit later. So then we get to the third round on Sunday, and he picks up a few strokes from Jones and Hagen on the first few holes, and then we get to the par 3. And this par 3, and this is exactly why golfers will always say, always film your par 3s because you never know when you're going to get a hole in one. And even though I know I have 0.0001% chance of ever getting a hole in one, I still always tell whoever I'm with, you just film this for me real quick, just in case. And this is also exactly how I'm picturing it happening to me. If again, it does ever happen, like the choir singing, like there'll be birds and doves flying in the sky. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly how it's going to happen when it does, if it does ever happen for me. And I love how, like, as the ball's in the air, Bagger's just kind of like, he's just looking off into the distance. He's like, oh, it's a pretty nice day. Like those clouds are kind of pretty. Like he could care less. So confident. And then once the ball goes in, both Junuh and Adele are in shock. Like everyone else is cheering. And Junuh just kind of like, he's looking at the hole and then he turns back to Adele and then he just turns back to the hole. I thought that was perfect.
Yeah. Complete shock.
So after this hole in one, the town starts to hear that Junuh's pulled within basically 3 strokes of them. And everybody starts making their way to the course. And they end the third round with huge fanfare. And they're back at the clubhouse. Hagen is pissed, doesn't even talk to them. And they're in the clubhouse and it's Bobby Jones and Junuh. And Bobby tells him that he's going to retire at the end of these holes. So again, because Bobby Jones is based off of a real character, the way he comes across is very honorable and you know, because of the real Bobby Jones. Do you think that he told him that he was retiring to tell him that he was retiring, even though, like, I don't think anybody really knew at that point? Or do you think it was to maybe try to get him to hold back a little bit?
I'm not sure. And I'm not sure why they would put that in. Does it match historically?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Maybe it's just putting in for some extra motivation to send it over. But that's I thought it was maybe something that historically matched in terms of timeline, but I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, I know he did in what would have been the timeline. It would have been like a year or two after this that he would have created Augusta and the Masters tournament.
Sure.
So he still would have been involved in the game. I don't know if he would have been playing as much, but I don't know. I don't think it was done with malintent to try and get him to not play as well. Because even in the scene right after that, Junuh's like, you know, that I'm not going to let you win just because you're retiring. He goes, I would hope that you wouldn't. So
right.
I don't think it really came off that way, but I was kind of also thinking like maybe he wanted a little bit of sympathy just to help him out, just in case. So then the final round starts. They go to the first hole, and as they're walking up the fairway, everybody in the gallery wants a piece of Junuh, especially Adele, and she kind of pulls him off to the side, and she tells him how she feels about how he left after the war, but she doesn't want it to get into Junuh's head, which again, I'm like, you're absolutely getting into his head. Why would you do this of all times now? You could have done this at any point over the course of the weekend, but you're doing it on the start of the last 18 holes. I was just like, come on. Any other time would have been fine. then we get to this par 5 where Junuh drives the ball into the beach and then he hits it into the ocean. And he's definitely very overconfident in this moment. And Bagger kind of was like, you know what? You want to make the decision? Go ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. You want to use that right club? You go for it. And it turns out that it was the wrong decision. What do you think, or which sport do you think coaches have the most impact on? And I'll exclude golf because obviously it's just the caddy and the golfer. So outside of golf, which sport do you think coaches have most of the impact on?
That's tough. That's a tough question. I mean, in a sport like football, they're constantly involved. Where in like soccer, they're not in your ear the whole fucking time. So just based on that, maybe football. But that's a tough question because it's all different levels, and all different coaches have styles. But yeah, are there other sports where they're in their ear like that?
Not like football. That was going to be my decision too. I think football on a regular, like during the game, football coaches have the most impact just because, like you said, they're in the quarterback's ear the whole time. That being said, that's only one player. You know, like they're the ones calling the plays. The quarterback can always change the plays, but like that's the one person that they're talking to, and then everybody else kind of runs that play based off of that. I was thinking basketball because those coaches are basically screaming out to them the entire game. There's a lot more timeouts, so they're able to call them over and run plays and be a little bit more specific. So I was thinking maybe basketball just because there's only 5 players on the court at one time, and the coaches are basically yelling at all of them the entire game.
Right.
So yeah, I was torn between basketball and football, but I think I
think football.
I was thinking football too. So after Junuh hits that ball into the water, he has to take a drop, and he does it over his shoulder. Like he drops the ball like over his shoulder. So that was actually the way that you would take a drop up until 1984.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a very long time. So up until 1984, they would drop the ball behind their shoulders. From 1984 till 2018, they would stand up straight and drop the ball from their shoulder height. And then it changed again in 2019, where golfers can drop it from knee height, right next to the spot where they want to drop it.
Oh, they made it so much easier.
So much easier. I think something that I read was that it was kind of like the throwing salt over your shoulder was where that kind of came from, dropping the ball over their shoulder. And they had to face the hole. So I think the other intention was so that you didn't have so much of an impact on where the ball ended up. It was kind of like you just dropped it and you were looking at the hole and you're like, all right, wherever it ends up, that's where I'm playing.
Reminds me of Pong too.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the shoulder.
Yeah. So we go on a couple of holes. Junuh drops 3 strokes and it kind of starts to feel like a collapse. He gets to I forget which hole it is, but he hooks a drive into the woods, goes into the woods to get the ball, and you start to hear the echoes of war, definitely some PTSD coming in this scene. And he almost picks the ball up, which would have disqualified him. He would have been out of the tournament right then and there. Bagger then comes in, helps him refocus, grounds him in the present, and reminds him that the past does not control the moment, only he controls the moment. He's able to focus and get the ball out of this very narrow hole, which is very reminiscent of a shot that happened in the Masters after this movie came out. There's a golfer, I can't remember his name. This is just coming into my head right now. Is why I'm blanking on the golfer's name. He's a lefty. His name kind of sounds like Hagen, but it's not Hagen. But he hit a shot in the Masters. I think he was either tied or he was down 1, and he was in between these 2 trees on the par 5 16 at Augusta. I know exactly what hole it was because there's a spot where a lot of golfers, there's like a little bit of a hill, and there's these couple of trees that, like, if you hit it too far, it'll go in those trees, and then you have almost no shot. Because this guy's lefty, he was able to hook this shot around the tree, and there's a ravine in front of the hole that if you hit it too short, it'll roll right into the ravine. He hit it right on the lip, and it rolled within 7 feet of the hole. It was like one of the best master shots ever. It was very reminiscent of this shot in the movie. So then we get to the last hole, the 18th hole, and they are all tied up. So it's getting kind of late, and they make the decision that the gallery is going to destroy them if they don't finish this tournament. So they're like, all right, let's play even if it gets too dark. So they bring all of these cars over to the hole so that the golfers can see. And this is why they built the final hole for the shot and spent $200,000 on the hole. They did not want all of these cars driving onto their actual golf course.
I love that. That's a fun fact that you saved. That's good.
That was good. I love so Hagen hits his shot, his tee shot, and it goes off into we don't even know where, but then we see him later. And I just love the fact that he's sitting there with he's got his pants rolled up. The caddy comes over and he goes, give me a smoke. And he's sitting there with the cigarette in his mouth about to take the shot from the literal beach with the ocean behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was like perfect for his character. So then we get to Junuh. He's about to take his shot and he's moving away some debris from around the ball, and the ball moves. And no one else sees it except him, Hardy, and Bagger. And Hardy's pleading with him not to tell anybody that the ball moved. He's like, I only saw it. I won't tell anybody. Like, don't do it. And Junuh chooses integrity, even though it might cost him the victory. Do you think that decision was more important than winning the tournament, even though there was so much riding on him and him possibly winning?
I think that's like the last karma, the last thing that sets it over the edge. His integrity is maybe part of his true self, and that's what gives it back to him at the end. And if it was all meant to be like one final test.
Do you think that, so when he is talking to the other golfers and the Scottish guy about it, and he's like, yeah, definitely move, the ball moved, give me the stroke. Bobby Jones kind of gives him a look and he gives him like a little bit of a nod. Do you think that Bobby Jones was like, oh, I'm retiring, you're doing this so that I have a better chance of winning? Like, he's kind of, it's almost like a thank you.
I don't know. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how to take that. Maybe
I took it, I think, as a little bit more of like, oh, this is like an integrity move and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that he could have, if his initial thought was, I'm going to tell him about this to try and go easy on me, and then this happened and maybe it didn't really happen, and so he's doing it to shot. So I thought that might have been interesting. Then we get Bagger and he's leaving. He comes up to Junuh and he's like,
I'm out.
I need my $5. I'm trying to get out of here. And Bagger goes up to Hardy and he's like, you take care of him. You'll know exactly what to do. Don't worry about a thing. It's all inside of you. Do you think Bagger was ever actually going to stay for the whole end of the tournament, or was he always supposed to leave at some point?
Yeah, I think his job was done.
Just right off into the sunset.
Yeah, he served his purpose. That's it. Now to the next person to help.
Exactly. So we're on the last hole. Jones and Hagen both have a shot to win, and both miss their shots. Very close shots, by the way. And they leave it open for Junuh. And he lines up the putt, and we see kind of how we saw in the first hole where Bagger was telling him, helping him to find his true swing and to see the field. We see the crowd disappear. We see the path that the ball has to take. So Junuh's really locked in and really seeing everything. And I love how when he makes the final putt, the first thing we don't hear anything. We don't hear the crowd. We see them react, but we don't hear anything. It's just silence. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Do you think that took away from maybe the gravity or the emotion?
No, it added to
the moment?
It added to it. Yeah.
I absolutely thought that. I thought it was just the perfect way to emphasize the gravity of them, because that's probably what Junuh was feeling.
Yeah,
he probably didn't hear anything. He was just like, I can't believe I made that. So they all tie, which is kind of great because the other guys don't go out with the loss, and Junuh also doesn't go out with the loss. So the town's happy. Everyone thinks it was a great success. Junuh and Adele reconnect, and they finally have their dance together. And then the story returns to older Hardy. He's getting up from when he was having his mini heart attack in the beginning of the movie. I think he said he had like 5 heart attacks in his life.
Yeah.
And he gets up and he starts walking down the hole to go to get his ball. And we see Bagger at the end of the hole, and he's welcoming Hardy, kind of like an old friend. And yeah, that is another scene that gets me every single time.
Do you think that he could have been dead?
Hardy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you're killing me, man. Yeah, I absolutely think it was him. Yeah, and I mean, even after, like, I didn't know at the time that Jack Lemmon had passed away right after that movie. So just knowing that was like his last scene ever in
Yeah,
a
it is
movie
crazy.
is just icing on the cake.
Like a final goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reception of this movie, like we said, it came out in 2000. Critics were mixed initially. A lot of people said they praised the cinematography. Like, I think we both think it was amazing. The atmosphere, the performances were really good. But a lot of people felt it was like overly sentimental. And it also it wasn't a box office success. It opened at number 3 in the box office, and it was behind Charlie's Angels and Meet the Parents.
That's a good weekend.
Had a little bit of competition, yeah. The final box office gross was only $39.5 million. It had an $80 million budget, so did not do too well. Yep. And again, it's surprising because there were 4 Oscar winners in the movie. But over time, it definitely developed a cult following among golfers.
All you are, seek it with your hands. Don't think about it.
Gabe, final thoughts. What did you think of this movie? And I'll add this in. How does it compare to Happy Gilmore?
I like Happy Gilmore way better, probably because of nostalgia, and it's just obviously a much more fun movie. I'm more neutral on this movie. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I had a good time. I didn't dislike it in any major way. I have my issues with it, but I think that talking about it now makes me feel better about it. I feel like I understand the story a little more. Obviously, the movie is supposed to do all the heavy lifting for that, but I don't mind necessarily things growing on me as I like take in the media. So I like Bagger Vance. I didn't love Bagger Vance. I probably won't return to Bagger Vance, but I'm glad I watched Bagger Vance. How did it feel for you to return to it?
I love this movie. It's like one of my favorite sports movies. I have a hard time comparing it to Happy. I think they're 2 completely different movies. Happy is a comedy. This is a drama. I guess I would categorize it as a drama, but it just tugs on the heartstrings for me, and just I absolutely love it. So it's tough for me to compare.
They came out 4 years apart, so they are from the same era.
Pretty much, yeah. It's interesting because like Happy definitely feels like a solid 90s movie, and this one, because it's the period piece, it's a little bit harder to like pick exactly when it came out.
Totally.
Which is good, which actually is kind of a testament to how it was shot. But yeah, they're pretty close together, but for me it's almost impossible to compare.
The movie is very well done, for sure. Also reminded me of like Benjamin Button in some ways, that it was just it's really well put together.
Definitely. Where would you rank it among just sports movies in general?
In like the mid section, I guess, in like the grand tier, of like Miracle and The Replacements and all those, it's in probably the mid tier. It's a good sports movie. I just think there are more exciting sports, but I really am not here to like shit on golf, because it's not really my my viewpoint of it. It's just, I think there's like, you compare it to like a Miracle or something like that, which I've only seen maybe once, but those are more like sports movies to me than this necessarily.
No, I would actually agree. It's like, I love this movie as a golf movie. It's up there, if not my favorite golf movie, one of. But as far as other sports movies, I do agree that I think there are better sports movies out there. But personally, for me, it's up there as one of my favorite.
Yeah.
So last question: do you like this movie?
Yes, I like this movie. It's not a movie. It's hard to really dislike it. It's like, it's easy on the eyes. It's soft on the edges. It's easy. It goes down really, really easy. So if you have major qualms with it, I guess I could see it, but I can't. It's not upsetting in any way. It doesn't. It's pretty. It's deliberately inoffensive. So yeah, I like this movie.
I would agree with that. I've said all that I can say about this movie. I love it. I will definitely go back and watch it many, many, many times. And yeah, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm happy that we did this. Happy Gilmore. I'm glad that we did it, because Happy Gilmore I'm very familiar with. This I wasn't at all. I just watched it yesterday, so it's fun to watch a movie with fresh eyes that is old and a lot of people are familiar with, and I'm not. So it's fun to be on opposing poles for this. But no, I'm excited to move into Mortal Kombat soon and more 90s movies. Obviously, Mortal Kombat 1 and Annihilation, and then the remake, and then the new one that will come out in May, followed by Mandalorian and Grogu. So we have lots to look forward to. I'm excited for the rest of the spring and summer.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Gabe, and thank you for your thoughts on this movie. And for our listeners for going on this golf journey with us. Like I said earlier, the Masters are coming up. They're taking place from April 9th to 12th. So I hope you get to enjoy the tournament. Like Gabe was saying, we have our Mortal Kombat series coming up next. So get over here and join us for that series.
Get over here.
Get over here. So thank you again to all our listeners and the subscribers. And remember, the movie may be over, but the marathon keeps on going. Peace.
Peace.